This is Arizona Real Estate Matters, the podcast. Our guests today are Craig and Mary Harry. By the way, I'm Phil Putnam with Empire Title. I'm your host. So our guests today are Craig and Mary Harry, both with Homesmart. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Phil.
And so you guys are husband and wife team. As we talked before the show, husband and wife teams are always a unique dynamic, that's for sure. So tell us a little bit about maybe how long you guys have been in the business. And Craig, you do mortgages as well. So we're going to be talking a lot about that also. But in your own words, just tell us a little bit about like how long you guys been in the business and how did you guys, team up to be a husband and wife team, Mary?
Okay, well, it's a long story, with any life. We have been married for 31 years. And Craig had a career as a project manager, and he had done other businesses in the past in printing. And when the crash happened in 2007, 2008, he had lost that job. And so we learned we needed a side hustle in the economy that we were in. And so he studied and got his real estate license. And at that time, I was still working in the medical field. And as time went on, he found that he was getting busier and busier in real estate. And so I was getting a little tired after 20 years in the medical profession. So I studied, got my test done, and I passed. And so we became TeamHarryRealtors. Craig's been in the business almost 15 years-ish, and I've done it for 5. And we have a different dynamic. I handle more of the face-to-face with the clients. I love to help stage homes. I do more of the prepping for the home for sale, as well as helping clients see the potential in a possible home purchase. I have a vision that when you walk into a home and people are like, this is so much work. And I go, actually, it's really not that much work. And let me help you understand what the possibilities are in this home. And so what I bring to the table is a vision for our clients, whether it's for selling their home to get the most for their money, or whether it's staging the home, or if it's helping people see what the possibilities are in a home. As well as I handle the social media and the marketing and those types of things for our clients. And then Craig, he is the brains behind the business. And so I'm the face of the business, and he's very analytical. They say, I like to throw a party and Craig likes to balance the checkbook.
So it sounds to me like you're the artistic side of it.
Yes, I am.
And the visionary.
Yes.
Where Craig, you're more of the technical person.
Yeah, I do, a lot of the running comps, finding homes, MLS work, that type stuff.
So I need to ask you this. I've been doing this 42 years. So I've seen a lot of ups and downs in this industry. And 07, 08 was the lowest of the lows that I've seen in the industry. Maybe if you existed in the Great Depression of the 30s, it might have been worse. Who decides in 07, 08 after the biggest real estate crash in the history of the United States to get their real estate license? That's just odd timing. That's all.
Evidently, I do. It was a little bit after. So we moved here from Southern California in 2007 for me to take a new job here. I got laid off in 2009. I got a new job in 2010. And it was shortly after that I decided, we don't want to do the 9-month unemployed situation again, because that's just not fun.
Well, 2010 was still in the throes of the market. It was just starting. It was kind of feeling its oats, really. I guess probably the best thing, because in 07, 08, everything kind of crashed, and then in 09, you start to see the short sales and a lot of the bank-owned properties hit the market and that kind of stuff, and which did give some opportunity to some people. Don't get me wrong, but it was limited opportunity. So you obviously had a vision to see some opportunity there for you. And I guess you were successful enough to where, a few years later, you convince your wife, or she convinces herself to join you. So it sounds like your dynamic works really good because it's not just, we're real estate agents and we represent buyers and sellers. You kind of have like a business model that works really well. Like you said, the artistic visionary side of it, and you're more the analytical side of it, which is great because not every one person possesses both of those dynamics. So, and Mary, when you talk about, we've talked quite a bit on this show and on our radio show before that about how somebody, buyers and sellers as well, because they're looking at their current home and going, oh, it looks great, and you look at it, go, no, you need to make some adjustments. And then you have buyers, like you said, that walk in and say, oh my God, there's all this work that needs to be done. Your job, it sounds like, in part, is to kind of help them paint the picture.
Yes.
How do you take a buyer or even a seller and say, look, guys, it's not as bad as you think it is, or a seller going, you need, it's not as good as you think it is, and paint that picture for them to where they don't, especially sellers, get offended, or buyers, they now all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and they go, oh, I can see it now.
Well, let me start with the sellers. One thing that people need to understand as a woman is we can get easily offended because this is our home and it's what we created, and it's an extension of who we are with our children, with our families, whatever it is.
Oh, absolutely.
So you have to be very cautious in how you present the information. And yet you don't want the home to sit there because things weren't done that should have been done. So it is a very sticky path in telling somebody you need to declutter, you need to paint, you need to change some fixtures, you need to move some furniture out or move it around, or you might want to, there's a lot of important things, with curb appeal that when you have, multiple children, or you have a lot of cars, there's just things you need to adjust. And approaching the subject in selling a home of decluttering is huge. And because people have to live in the house. And as anybody knows, when you're selling a property, it is painful with having to stage it and having to keep it up during the duration of showings. It's a challenge, especially for young families. So that is something when we are going to sell a home, I think in the beginning, it's better to season your words carefully, to explain to them, to get the most for your property as quickly as possible. These are the steps you need to take because this is what we see and we don't live here. Now, when it comes to buyers, when we go in a home, especially we work with a lot of first-time home buyers. And so we kind of feel like they're parents in a way. And that's easy for us because we have a lot of years of working with young adults. But going into looking at a property, it's very easy for us because we rebuilt our own home when we were young and we bought the dump and we had to put a lot of money into it and fix it. So the benefit of that is being able to give the vision to these young adults of what it could look like and what the sweat equity could provide for them, that you want to pick this house in the neighborhood. That's a great neighborhood. And then just put your money into it year after year, just pick a project one after the other. And what we can do is I go in there and say, well, you could move this wall. If you talk to a contractor, if you don't like the open floor plan, you could build a wall. And, there's different things as well as, teaching young people. And there's other people as well that are more advanced in maturity that don't want to do the work either. So, and that's what we're really seeing in the market today, which is another subject we could talk about is people don't necessarily want to do a lot of work today into a home.
Interesting.
Yes. A lot of the buyers that we're seeing and a lot of the feedback we've received is people, because of where interest rates are and they're maxing out at their loan amounts, that they're challenged to come up with extra money per month to be able to do any type of home renovations or updates that aren't simply cosmetic. So people want to move into a home that is well decorated or well painted, or it's has a good layout. They don't want to replace things. They don't want to redo a bathroom or a kitchen. They want to move. They want a home that's move-in ready.
So are they gravitating to the new home, the new home builders because of that? Because basically they're turnkey for the most part. And when I say the most part, there are always the little things that have to be, fixed later or whatever that the contractors and the home builders will take care of. But are they kind of saying, well, look, the resale market, and we all know that, for the most part, the new home market is priced a little bit higher than the resale market. Sometimes there's a big disparity in price. But overall, history has told us that the new homes are a little more expensive. Now, with the new homes comes some perks that you can't get in the resale market. So there's advantages to each of them. But do you see, people kind of going, well, the resale, yeah, I might be able to pay a little bit less for this home over here, but there's some work that's going to need to be done. And like you said, they don't have the money, where if we go over here, it's already ready to go. Yeah, we're paying a little bit more, but it's already done. Is that what you're seeing?
We see it somewhat, depends on the location. So we lived in Ahwatukee for 15 years. We do a lot of business in Ahwatukee. There's not a lot of new builds. Now they are out there at the end of Chandler Boulevard and Foothills Reserve. They are just breaking ground. So there will be some new
and there's
builds
limited
there.
space. I mean,
Right.
South of the 202, it's Indian reservation. So you're not going to see anything that direction.
Correct. So in Ahwatukee, we don't have that, option. Buyers don't have that option if they want to live in that area. Even Chandler now, there's very few new builds. Out where we're at now in Gilbert and Queen Creek, yeah, that is a legitimate option for people. I know we sold a home last year in central Gilbert, close to Santan Village. One of the things as we were getting ready to list the home, we had to always consider is there was a 1 square mile development a mile away from the house, and what homes were available there. And they're, that's when interest rates are over 7%, and they're, selling homes at brand new homes at 5.5.
Yeah. That's hard to compete with. It used to be that when you had a resale subdivision and the next door there was some vacant land, they decided to build a new home subdivision. A lot of people in the resale home division were like, oh, that's great, because that's going to bring up the prices of our home. But now it's more like, yes, it brings up the price of your home a little bit, but you're competing with, there's an old saying, he who has the gold makes all the rules, and they've got a little bit more gold than you do. So they can be more flexible and offer a lot more things, buying down the rate and everything else, even though you're paying a little bit more. Right. In the end, it kind of works itself out, and you're buying a brand new home. Right. There's one thing that also is very intriguing, and Mary, you talk about staging the home and making it look good and everything else, but with that new home, you get that new home smell, and it's a mindset. It's when people walk into a resale, not saying that it smells bad or anything, but you walk into a brand new home and you smell that new stuff, and it changes your mind as far as, oh yeah, that's what I want. It just gives you this comfort, I guess. So let's talk about, I want to hit on something that I've come across that I think is very important. You talk about the sellers, Mary, when you're talking to people, and I want both of your guys' opinion on this. And that is, I'm a firm believer of what they call a pre-listing inspection. And I want your opinions because, I see a lot of transactions come across my desk as an escrow officer where, 4 days later, the inspection's done and the deal cancels because there's just way too many things. There's not enough. The list is not small enough to where the seller says, yes, I'll take care of it. Or the buyer says, I'll absorb it. Or maybe even the seller concession is enough to take care of it. Where do you guys stand on talking to somebody, especially maybe a little bit older home, where it might be an advantage to them to go ahead and pay the $400 or $500 to have a pre-listing inspection done, to let them know, hey, these are the things that need to be fixed before you probably put it on the market.
I'm a big fan of pre-listing inspections as well. I don't think it's necessary on every home, though. If you got a home that's within 10, 15 years of being built, I typically would never recommend a pre-listing inspection. But for older homes, at a minimum, I usually like to have the roof inspected. So I can call a roofer and have them just walk the roof and give me a quick inspection on an invoice, and hand that to the seller and say, look, you could spend $400 now, and when the inspection comes, when we're under contract, we know the roof is going to be clean. And that gives buyers confidence when they come in, and because every house has typically roof and air conditioning issues.
So something like that you can also use as a negotiating tool, because the buyer is probably going to do their own inspection.
Right.
So if you have something like just a roof inspection, or even if you do a pre-listing inspection, the seller has their inspection, the buyer does their inspection. Their inspector says, "Oh, it needs a new roof," and your inspection's like, "No, no, no, it just needs this and this and this." And the buyer, because it's kind of like an appraisal. It's in the eye of the person who's doing the inspection or doing the appraisal. And it may not need a new roof. That inspector was just being a little cautious or whatever, when it might only need, $1,500 or maybe whatever, to correct the issues that are with the roof. And next thing you know, you've just saved a sale.
Right. And typically inspectors are not going to just do the simple step of bending down and lifting up roof tiles to check the paper underneath, whereas a roofer is going to do that.
Yeah. They're going to make sure that it's the underlying, structure of the roof is a lot more solid than maybe just a home inspector would. The reason I bring it up is, like I said, you get these contracts come in, and I've had, unfortunately, one house that I remember, they went under contract. The fourth one finally closed. Let's just put it that way. The first three all canceled because of inspections. And it's because the seller, unfortunately, and I know this agent very well, so I trust what they're saying to me. The seller just wouldn't, budge. They like, "I don't believe there's this much wrong." Well, after the third one, they finally said, "Okay, we got 3 different inspections, 3 different buyers. They're all pretty much saying the same thing." How stubborn can sellers be, Mary? That's okay.
Gee, thanks. They can be, like I said earlier, we take pride in our home, and we've lived there, and we haven't had a problem with it. So why would somebody else have a problem with it?
Yeah.
Right. So, in general, people don't want to think that there's something wrong with their home. They want to say, "I've lived here just fine. I don't know what the big deal is. I don't see a leak. I don't, my air conditioner blows fine, And, they also see dollar signs, right? We all want to get the maximum amount of money out of our house that we can.
And that's kind of why I brought that up, is because you've got sellers that, and it's okay to be stubborn about your own home. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but they see it differently than a buyer sees it. They see it differently than you see it.
Well, because they're emotionally attached where the buyer is not yet.
Yeah. And it, not just with the condition of the property, but the value of the property as well. They're very stubborn, and they're also hanging their hat, unfortunately, on 6-month or 1 year or 2-year-old information, and, Craig, how often do you talk to people and they think their house is worth way more than what it really is worth? I mean, you said you do the comps and you do all that stuff. I mean, when you're going in, and we're going to talk about a couple of your listings. So, we'll use these examples. When you go to, let's say, a listing presentation, I'm sure you're well armed with ammunition as far as, basically what the home is worth.
Right. And you have to be. And, every seller thinks their home's worth more than it really is. And it's our job to go in there with the evidence. I mean, I look at it as a court case, right? They're the ultimate judge, but I'm going to go in and present evidence that is going to convince them of the right price. And a lot of that is not just pulling comps. A lot of that is knowing what's going on in that specific market. How many homes are available, how many homes are for sale, how many homes in their kind of price range, and, our direct competition, and then also looking at the closed comps.
How often do you get the individuals that say, "Well, the house down the street sold for X amount of dollars," and then you're not even pulling up that comp, and that's because it sold a year and a half ago for X amount of dollars?
Right. Every time.
I
mean, yeah. So it's just education. You just have to educate them on how you determine value, and then explain to them the market.
And that's the thing. The market dynamic dictates a lot of stuff.
A lot.
And that's one of the things that people don't understand. We were discussing before the show how I had a discussion with somebody last weekend, and one of the things that, there was a few of us sitting around, kind of real estate came up, and I always hate when that happens when I'm with people because they're so misinformed. And one of the individuals said, well, the home affordability is due to the fact that there's no inventory out there. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. That is old information.
Right.
You mentioned to me that you said there's about 26,000 homes listed right now, not under contract, but just 26,000 listings in Maricopa County.
In Armless's. Yeah. So some outside, the vast majority in Maricopa County, but in Armless's region.
And you said the ones that are pending and under contract or whatever might push it up closer to the 30,000 range.
Definitely.
That's not far off from a what we consider a balanced market. With the population in Maricopa County being the way it is now, probably 32,500 to 37,500 homes, somewhere in that vicinity, is a good barometer as far as a balanced market is concerned. So you have individuals that, let's say a buyer, is like, well, the house is not affordable, housing is not affordable. So, because of the inventory, and you can say, well, no, there's homes out there that, yes, they're not dropping in value, but they're not increasing at the rate they were before, so how many buyers, we talk about the sellers and having to sit them and bring them down to reality, whether it be the condition of the property or not just, repairs, but just the overall aesthetics of the property, but sellers as far as price is concerned. How many buyers though do you have to say, okay, wait a minute, you've talked about wanting to buy a home, but you also talk about affordability. I think it's not as unaffordable as you think.
I think most buyers would disagree with you. I think a lot of buyers right now think it's just unaffordable.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, and I get that, but when you sit down with them and you pencil it all out, and you go, wait a minute, I think you can afford this, is my point. Is like, and you take them from being on the sideline to actually being a true prospective buyer.
Yeah. And that's one of the benefits that we get is I can pre-qualify them up front, and then I can pull up on my phone and give them within probably plus or minus $10 what their monthly payment's going to be.
And that's a lot of it because of your expertise as an agent, but also because you work as their lender as well, correct?
Yep.
And so I noticed, one of the things I asked you guys beforehand is like, how many of the transactions do you work with your buyers? And you said all of them.
Yeah.
So by doing that, you're not disconnected from the lending side of it. You're so connected with it that I think it gives you guys a big advantage.
It's a huge advantage because we've never lost a contract when I'm the agent and he's the lender.
That's good.
Yeah. We, when there was high competition, it's very easy for me to call them and say, well, my husband's a lender. What do we need to do to get this deal done? And so it really works in our favor.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I got my mortgage license is back in, 2020 into 2020 and 2021, we had a lot of buyers and we're going, prepping them, educating them ahead of time. Look, the list price is not what you're going to pay for this house. And also, I'm going to sound like I'm the seller's agent because you're not going to get any repairs done. And you're basically going to have to do everything that they tell you, whatever they want. If you want this house, you're going to have to do. And we're submitting offers 30, 40, 50,000 over asking and getting denied, getting rejected.
It was a crazy market. Yes.
So that's, in consultation with a friend of mine who's an agent in California, we're both putting our heads together and we both went and got our mortgage license. And she's right. Since then, after about, I think April, May that year, I got my license and got attached with a broker, and every ridiculously over asking price offer that we submitted the rest of that year and the following year, we won.
Wow.
Because it's very simple when she's talking to them and saying, yeah, we're going to write an offer. And basically how can we write this offer that you really like it? And by the way, my husband's the lender, and she puts me on the phone and I'm, look, I pre-qualified them or I pre-approved them, and here's their credit. That gave them a sense of confidence. Like, oh, look, this is really easy for me now. I'm already getting 50,000 over asking. And I'm talking to the lender. And I got a deal that's
going to close.
Right. I'm 100% positive it's going to close because I'm giving them that confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's important because I know that when I'm dealing with an agent and they either have a very, very close relationship with the mortgage company or it's a dynamic like yours, then, more than likely 90% of the time it's going to close.
Right.
The problem is when the buyer has went ahead and done all their own stuff with one of the big, mortgage companies that, advertise on TV and all that other good stuff, and they think they're getting a better deal there. There is a huge disconnect between agent and mortgage company as far as communication is concerned. And when you're dealing with somebody that's outside of the state, as opposed to somebody who's local, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a hassle dealing with outside lenders who are out of state. They don't fill out the same pre-qualification form. It's even hard for them to understand what an agent needs in order to submit as far as pre-qualification goes for a buyer. So I've had nothing but hassle anytime I'm on a listing or I'm working with a buyer who is using an outside.
Yeah. One of the
State
things that
lender.
I've noticed is that when they're using one of the big national mortgage companies, and there's, and I'm not trying to slam them, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're in another state. They're underwriting in numerous states across the United States. They don't understand Arizona. I mean, people need to understand that there's 50 states, there's 50 set of rules as far as how real estate works and mortgages work in each one of those states. And if the underwriter's not doing a whole lot of stuff, or maybe 100% of their stuff in Arizona, there's going to be, they're going to be asking for stuff that we don't do here or that we don't need here or whatever the case is. And I've seen stuff delayed just due to the lack of local knowledge for an underwriter, and they're like, well, the underwriter wants this. Well, it doesn't apply. Yeah, it doesn't apply here. And it's very frustrating. So, so basically, you guys are a one-stop shop. I mean, a seller can come to you, and you're going to take them down the yellow brick road and say, look, this is what it's going to, take to get your house sold, and we're going to do this if you listen to me. You obviously can help them with the buyers and on the mortgage side, as well as on the real estate representation side. And that's important in our market. To have to go to numerous people to do numerous things sometimes can get very confusing, because for a buyer and seller, there's a lot going on, and that's not what they do for a living. So they can get confused real easy. They can lose confidence in people real easy. By going to you guys, you can say, look, we'll take care of you. We're going to take care of all aspects of the transaction. And I just think that's huge in my opinion. I wanted to talk about, before we end the show today, I wanted to talk about a couple listings you guys have. Let's go ahead and start with the first one. It's 406 East Glenhaven in Phoenix. Where about is this property?
It's in the foothills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ahwatukee.
Oh, it's in Ahwatukee. Okay.
Yep. It's in Ahwatukee foothills.
Yeah. People think Ahwatukee is an actual town, and it's not.
No.
People always go, well, Ahwatukee. No, it's in Phoenix. It's just an area of Phoenix is Ahwatukee. So it's in the Ahwatukee area. Tell me a little bit about this house. It's listed. It's 574.9.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's a great house. It's 4 bedroom, 3 full bath, 2-story. So it's got a full bath with shower and everything downstairs, and as well as a guest room. Could be used as an office or a 4th bedroom. Pretty open floor plan. It's got a large dining room, a nice vaulted ceiling entry, remodeled kitchen, upgraded cabinets, granite countertops, all the normal stuff. Both bathrooms, full bathrooms upstairs, have been remodeled. So a nice kind of walk-in shower upstairs in the master. It's got a balcony in the back that looks at South Mountain, so it's got a great mountain view. It's got a den / office attached to the master. So, some would call it a sitting room, but you could use it as a workout room, an office, a reading room, however you want to use that. That's pretty large. And then the bedrooms are good size.
Yeah,
So,
big bedrooms is important. That's for sure.
I love the location because Ahwatukee has amazing biking and hiking trails.
It does.
It's very close. It's easy 202 commute, whether you're going towards Chandler or whether you're going around the mountain towards downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very easy commute there. It's in the Kyrene School District, which is highly sought after.
Yeah, Kyrene is on one at the top of the list.
Yes, this home it's an amazing home, and just the market we're in, things are taking a little longer to sell. And this home, I'm just surprised that we haven't had an offer yet, but it's coming, people.
Taking longer to sell is not a bad thing. People forget we have short memories in the real estate industry.
That's true.
You know, I mean, the average time on market for historically is, 2 to 3 months. That's average time on market. We need to get back to a normal market. That's the thing, is we need to kind of settle down, let the dust settle, and get back to a normal market. I think we're going that direction. The people out there that think that interest rates are, oh God, they're just way too high. They're still historically over the last 30 years lower than what the average has been over the last 30 years. So
less than what we had at our first home. So
absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, let's talk about the other one, 3841 East Oxford. It's out in Gilbert. It's listed at $729,900. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Yeah, this is a beautiful house. I mean, it looks like a brand new build. Doesn't even look like anyone's lived there for 6 years. We were on a home tour in Gilbert last week. We went to, I think, 8 or 9 houses. 2 of them were over $1 million. Every agent and broker that was on the tour thought this was the best house on tour.
Really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's that clean. It's that nice. It's that well kept. It has a downstairs powder room plus a downstairs bedroom with an ensuite bathroom.
Wow.
Nice loft upstairs. I mean, beautiful backyard, extended lot, gorgeous from the front. Curb appeal's great, in an awesome area. You've got 2 different. It's in kind of north, I guess, central East Gilbert, so it's about a mile or so from Power.
Okay.
Where there's a ton of shopping, everything you want there, from grocery stores to department stores and everything else. Plenty of restaurants, and then it's got, down off of Williams Field, a bunch of nice niche restaurants and stuff a mile away. So it's in a great area, easy to get to the 202. So it's great for commuting. It's just a really clean house. It's got a great backyard, artificial turf. Probably the backyard is 30 to 40 feet deep.
Wow.
And they've got a brand new pool.
gorgeous.
Having a big backyard is important, because so many of these homes were built. They were trying to get as many as they can.
The high density.
Yeah, exactly. So the backyards keep getting smaller and all that good stuff. So to have a backyard that big is very inviting. That's for sure. I will tell you that this picture, it's a black and white picture because I did a printout of the MLS Plano. But when I saw it on my screen before I printed it, whoever did the lighting on this house in this picture, it was amazing. So when you said it, it looks like nobody's lived there, I kind of looked at it at first and went, this looks like a model home almost from the outside.
Yeah, it really is. And we hire a professional photographer for all of our listings.
You guys, well, let's just put it this way. It sounds like you do it right.
We try to.
Yeah.
We try to do right by our clients and do everything we can. Like I said, by the time we're done with a deal, they're like our family. We want to treat them the way we would want to be treated. And we respect their thoughts. We respect their wishes. And we're always obedient to what they want. But we always have to be truthful too.
Yeah. Being honest, even if they don't want to hear it, is people appreciate that. Trust me. In all my years in this industry, I don't sugarcoat things. I'm not going to be rude about anything, but I'm going to say, look, this is the truth. When people ask me, what's the time frame and what's going to happen in the transaction, I say, okay, here are the steps and this is how it's going to happen. They're like, wow. And unfortunately, a lot of times people will say to me, that's the first time anybody's ever told me the truth and what's going to happen. And it's a shame, that people don't do what you do, which is, you treat them the way you want to be treated, you inform them the way you want to be informed, and you take care of them. And that's important, because it means happy clients today, but it also means a lot of clients in the future and happy clients in the future. And that's how you build a good, successful real estate, business. That's for sure. People need to call you, prospective buyers, prospective sellers. Your representation obviously is much needed in our industry. How does somebody get a hold of you guys? Phone numbers, email addresses?
Easiest thing probably is go to our website, TeamHarryRealtors.com. We've got all sorts of information, our listings, other listings, plus our bio, all our reviews. We've never gotten anything other than a 5-star review.
That's excellent.
We also have our blog, right? We have our blog, and we have a newsletter that we send out, and we do that a couple times a month. And in there we have, it's called the Helpful Hint from the Harrys. And so I write an article based on just some kind of home tip or something like that. Craig writes an article about lending or what the housing market is doing. And so we email that out a couple times a month, just depending on need. And those are available on our website. So you can read those newsletters. You can read those articles as well as sign up for it. You can also email us at TeamHarryRealtors.com. I'm sorry, TeamHarryRealtors@gmail.com.
At gmail.com. The website is TeamHarryRealtors.com.
Yeah, so that's the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Well, this newsletter you mentioned is important, and people need to go on your website. They need to go ahead and get this information from you, because if you want to know what's going on in the real estate market, you need to talk to people who have boots on the ground. Excuse me. Craig is not only just a realtor; he's also a mortgage professional. Mary, being a realtor, you have your mortgage license too. So I'm sure, more mortgage questions go to Craig, but you are schooled on what's going on in the mortgage side of the business.
Yes.
And if people want to know what's happening today in the industry, you need to contact these people. And I'm sure your newsletter and all that stuff keep people informed with relevant information as well.
Correct. Yeah. We have relevant information and things that people maybe don't even understand. Or recently, Craig wrote an article about title fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? And people are concerned about that. Or I might write an article about how to refresh your front porch for the summer or something like that. But there's more detailed things than that. Those are just a couple ideas that we've done.
Very important need in our industry, which is truthful, accurate, relevant today information. That's for sure. This is Craig Harry, Mary Harry, both with Homesmart. Guys, thank you so much for being on our show today.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Thank
We
you,
will
Phil.
talk to you guys later.